Hi everyone. So I had this really profound experience a couple of weeks ago. It gave me a lot of insights and some epiphanies, and I really want to share it with you. It has to do with, self-judgment, self-criticism, compassion for self, boundaries, huge one, right? And it really shows the depth of the mirroring of the external from the internal. So what I experienced, I was just going about my day as normal, and then I was sitting on my couch and I was starting to get ready to get into a meditation. And all of a sudden, I had this experience of complete freedom. I felt so much compassion for myself. It was like a switch. Suddenly there was like the depth of that compassion for myself is something I've never felt before. I felt completely free. There was absolutely no judgment or criticism of myself. Doesn't mean at all like I could see in that state all like things I do well, things I don't do so well. In the a judgment or measurement we normally would see. It wasn't like things were perfect. It was just the complete acceptance and no judgment or criticism around it, and so much compassion. I would say that's the moment in my life I've experienced complete freedom. Never experienced anything like this before. And it was like a switch turned on. When I was in this experience of having absolutely no judgment of self, no criticism of self, I could feel like all the layers of all my like inner children, which at times feels like a kindergarten. And it was just this really profound presence and complete freedom. I could see like everything, like the structure in my mental field completely evaporated. It just disappeared. And that is the structure that holds all limits together, right? That holds it so that it is there. My heart field opened a lot, and I could see, because after the experience I went back in and looked at it energetically, and I could see how much my whole field actually changed during this experience in different ways. But the most important now for this video is that it really expanded. It expanded my whole field. Now the insight I got immediately was because being in this experience of no self-judgment, no criticism, complete freedom, and so much compassion for self, it really showed that the experience I'm normally in holds a lot of self-judgment, does not hold too much compassion for self, and holds a lot of self-criticism. It is often when we get an experience which is completely detached from what we normally are in, that we can see what we really have been in, or what we are usually in. We can gain, from that observer or that observer perspective, or the experience of being in it, we really get to see it with a different filter, and we get to gain more clarity about what we are usually experiencing. So what I saw was how much self-criticism, how much self-judgment is still active in me, and how much more compassion I can have for myself. It was actually a shock to me, because I've been for years doing work on these topics, and I know it's still active in me, but I had no idea it was active to that extent. So that was like a huge insight for me. Then I got the epiphany just afterwards, because as this really settled, because it went like into all cells of my body, it got really like the whole body could feel it. It was like everything, my physical body, my field, everything, the mental field completely changed. And then I got the epiphany that the experiences I have also with other people in my life mirrors my relationship with myself. And this is something we know, right? But the way I treat myself, the way you treat yourself, is the way you let other people treat you. And that brings us to the topic of boundaries, which is a huge topic. But as long as we act and treat ourselves, with respect and act accordingly to our own boundaries with ourselves, and we're not, picking ourselves apart constantly, that will also create an experience in the external of other people treating us with that respect, not picking us apart. No matter whether, we're doing something wrong, we're doing something good. We'll say that it's not right or good in that sense, but you get what I mean. And for the sake of this conversation, let's just name it good or bad. When we do this, we won't even, with time, eventually, we won't need boundaries in the same way as we do while we are sort of practicing and learning to honor ourselves and be authentic. Because when we're completely transparent, when we're completely authentic and we just are who we are, there's no, there's so much self-acceptance, so much self-love, so much respect for self that we won't need boundaries in that way. Because when we don't have those limits, we don't have those thoughts, those beliefs active in our mind, in our field, we will not experience any external thing, crossing our boundaries or doing things that is not okay. So it also really asks for a very radical accountability, because even with really strong violations to boundaries, now I will say, if you are in a situation where you are like physically being abused or something, get out of it. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about anywhere where we feel that things are, overstepping what is okay. We feel that people are not treating us well, or we are constantly not, or also when it's very obvious that we're not treating ourselves well. Others do to you what you do to yourself. So if we can take that radical accountability and really look at ourselves, if we have an experience in the external and we see that there are several people, the world constantly treat us in a way that doesn't feel right, look at how you are treating yourself that way. Because when you're changing that, the external experience will change. When you're not attached, because this also has to do with the attachment to the ego, right? So when we are not attached to the ego in that way, and the attachment to something being good or bad, we won't either have such a fear of making mistakes. That's been a huge one in my life. It's still very active. I'm going to be very honest about that. But the fear of making mistakes comes from really the fear of that judgment, which is a judgment that we have on ourselves. It's of course programs we're holding, like growing up and being punished if we do something wrong, and being, getting all good feedback when we're doing something right. And we learn to have this relationship with ourselves where we are really punishing ourselves into doing something right, or into behaving well, or into growth. And growth, good behavior, treating others well, treating ourselves well, nothing of this comes from judgment or punishment. All of that comes from self-love. Now, a person who is okay, let's say just have fallen in love. Everything is moving perfectly in their life. Like it's just, they're just feeling so much love. Everything, like their health is well, they're well rested, work is going well, they're just fallen in love. Like imagine this feeling. A person in that experience, I would argue, wouldn't create so much chaos or drama or be so negative about others or others' experience. They would treat people pretty well. They would have more acceptance for anything going on around them because they are in this energy, in the frequency of love, of everything is, beautiful and it's all really like a good experience. But when we are really pushed to our limits, the shadow really comes out. The shadow, and this is a good thing. It's not if we are self-aware, because if we keep just going out, like running out and projecting it onto others, that is where there is a problem. If we are self-aware, oh, okay, now I'm being like pushed to my limits. What am I telling myself about myself right now? Because if you can change in those moments how you are treating yourself when you're pushed to your limits, are you then just doubling up on judging yourself, on criticizing yourself? Like there's no compassion, you should know better, you should, all of that shaming, that does not create self-love. And it is from the self-love. It is from complete acceptance of what is that we experience freedom. Now for me, this experience I had is not the experience I'm in or have been in for this 2 weeks. It was a moment of that experience that I will never forget. And now I have gained awareness. I have gotten some epiphanies around these topics, and I've seen myself from a very different light. That allows me to understand more of what's going on and to keep working on freeing myself. Keep reminding myself of, hey, you completely fucked up here. Own it. You grow from it. It's all good. It's growth. And also see that, hey, you can do this thing even though you're having a lot of fear around it, or you think you're not good enough, or all those things that are really, we're holding ourselves back. I can remind myself now in those moments that, hey, maybe just try doing it, because you will grow. Probably it will be awesome. If not, hey, have compassion, you're growing, you're being a human. And also it's like a deeper sense of contact with the inner child, of really standing up for oneself and for that child. It's really an experience of more integration. So this is what I'm continuing to work towards. And remember this, that, like, please take this with you from the video, that when you feel someone is treating you a way that is not okay, look at where you are treating yourself that way. Because that is the internal that is being mirrored to you. Maybe not like in the exact same way, but the energy of it. There's something in the energy of it that is the sign. I think we're all searching freedom, no matter the experience we have. And it's so simple. It's really not complex at all. But it is so profound. And this also shows that when there's the wars in the world, you guys, it will stop when we're not. Sorry, the wars in the world will stop when we are quitting the wars inside of ourselves. that is self-judgment, that is self-criticism. I'm not good enough. That wasn't good enough. You should have done better. Probably you should do that. What is expected? Everything of this takes you outside of yourself. And it stops the freedom that is in self-love. Because when we are in that frequency, we are completely free, and we will be amazing people. We will have very different relationships with others as well. And that's really even what war comes from. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. I would love to hear your comments, what your experiences with this is, and how you perceive the video. Please share along if you feel that it's helpful. Looking forward to see you guys in the next video. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye.